Welcome to Lowe's Motor Speedway as the track opens for final practice for the Sprint Showdown. I'd like to say it's a beautiful day here in the Charlotte area, but those are big, low-hanging clouds.
But it is dry.
It is dry, and the sun pops through every now and then. You can see the shadows from the cars as they circulate around the speedway. So right now we're in sunny conditions, but there are heavy clouds in the area. Who knows what that means? Because we're not weathermen. We don't even play them on TV. Well, Larry does sometimes.
I studied a little close, but we've got the vortex going. We had the trucks out there. Now we put the cup cars out there. Everything's going to be okay.
What about our backdrop here?
Oh, our bunting.
Nice.
Isn't that
that's lovely.
That's gorgeous. I'd say swing for the fence, never mind the bunting, but that's a whole nother sport. Sprint Showdown practice. Final practice to get ready to race, to try to race your way into the All-Star race. Have I confused y'all yet?
What'd you say? Here's what I know, okay?
Okay.
Pays $1 million to win this thing. That's what I know. And it pays $200,000 to run second. And everybody else gets about the same. So if you can win it, it's going to be an exciting time. If you can't, you're going to go home kicking the tires saying, man, I should have taken him out.
But Larry, to win it, first you have to get in it.
Yeah, these guys, they've got an agenda that happens first, because we've got the biggest field of cars we've ever had for the Showdown. We've got 35 cars. When it's all said and done at the end of their 40-lap race tomorrow night, only 3 drivers will transfer, 2 by finishing first or second, or 1 by the fan vote, as Casey Kane did. But what an agenda these guys had. Mike mentioned an hour and 20-minute final practice. They've not been on the racetrack, so they've got a short race, so you want to qualify good, but it's an impound race. So pretty much when they qualify later on today, those cars go in the garage area, not to be touched until race time.
Yeah, that was the guys I was talking about, taking each other out so you can get in for the $1 million.
As we've seen many times.
You have to take them out so you can get in.
I
think it's time we show you folks how we set the field. The Sprint Showdown is made up of drivers who have not won races this year or last year. Now you have to be in the top 50 points last year to be able to play, or you have to have attempted to qualify for a race this year up to and including Texas.
And I would say, as I walk through the garage area, pretty much every driver that fits that criteria, they are down in that garage area, because as I mentioned, 35 cars here.
Juan Pablo Montoya, 9th right now, 177 miles an hour. Jamie Mack and Casey Mears are the lead dogs in this chase right now.
And I would say that will be 2 or 3 of the candidates that will be the guys you're going to have to beat tomorrow night in this 40-lap race. Now, here's what's interesting about the 40-lap race is at the end of 20 laps, they're going to throw a caution. Now, it's optional. It's just like a caution coming out with 20 laps to go. But, Darrell, if I look back at the last 2 or 3 years, there was no strategy. Everybody just stayed out on the racetrack to keep the track position.
Yeah, I think so. And, of course, you know, you're talking about who the favorites are for this thing. But I just got this feeling, I got this funny little feeling that 20 car, they love, Zippy and those guys love this racetrack. They've always had the hot setup for here. And I just looked at the practice speeds, and Logano was up there in 3rd. I don't know, man. That car looks pretty fast.
Well, I wouldn't count this fella out because he is no turkey, despite what it says on the quarter panel. In fact, Martin Truex's team had a big night in the pit crew competition individually.
I would say that I like his chrome paint job. I will say that.
Yeah, that brings back some memory.
It even looks better close up.
Oh, I know. Nice. They always do. They look great under the lights. That chrome is my favorite race car. If he had a 7 by that 1, he'd be on it.
No, he'd be Matt Kenseth. Dick Bertrand.
But he's not in it.
Well, how about chrome with flames? I think that's a better
it's even better, Doc.
I knew you'd like that, Darrell. I really did know that. And I'm hanging out in Logano's garage because, like you, I think this could be a big weekend for Joey Logano. 12 different drivers have walked out of here, out of the Sprint Cup weekend, with their very first ever big league NASCAR trophy. In fact, the Showdown 4 times in a row has been won by a first-timer. Logano, he's on a roll. Last weekend at Darlington, career best start, tied his career best finish, led 19 laps, more than they'd ever led in one of these races before. But David Stremme, 2 garages over, he thinks he's going to win it too. I'm going to move out of the way because Logano's coming in now.
All right, I just believe this 20 team, they have a little bit of extra incentive. This has been a race team since 1999 when Tony was a rookie. they have never not made it into the All-Star race, because in 1999, when Tony was a rookie, he won the Showdown, transferred into the All-Star race, and finished second.
Every 10 years, just kind of what goes around comes around. I was
wondering if it had anything to do with that being the Home Depot car and this being Lowe's Motor Speedway.
Now that too, maybe.
Oh, yeah, I never thought of that.
Matt Yoakum.
Well, Mike, if you ask Jimmy McMurray, he'll tell you Charlotte is special for a number of reasons. First, that's where he scored his first now called Sprint Cup Series victory. They brought the car they ran with at Bristol. He's been in the big show, the All-Star race, 3 separate times. His best finish, though, 18th. And when you look at the resurgence that this team has had this year, starting with the Budweiser shootout back in Daytona in February, almost won that, leading going into the last lap. This team really has turned the corner, and this could be a huge, huge weekend for this team, getting not only adding a Charlotte win, adding an All-Star win to his racing resume. It could be big this weekend.
And you know, guys, they really don't need to turn their performance around. They just need to turn their luck around. Donnie Wingo, the crew chief, he's one of my go-to guys. I walked up to him this morning. He said, don't you even tell me we had a good run at Darlington, because we did have a good run. We just didn't have a good finish again.
Problem with a lot of those good finishes, yeah, but.
In the box scores, that's what counts.
Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Operation Homefront on the hood of Robbie Gordon's Jim Beam car. And there's Elliott Sadler. A lot of special paint jobs for All-Star Weekend. We'll show you some of those during these practice sessions.
You know, I mentioned at the top of the show about the fan vote, Elliott Sadler. Well, let's take a look at why we're under caution first. This is Dave Blaney in the 66 car.
I think that's just tire smokes, all that is. I don't look like anything wrong, really.
But just going back to Elliott Sadler, you know, the fan vote, that's become a really, really big deal. And Elliott Sadler last week on a speed show, he made the commitment that if they vote, the fans vote him in, that he will put a Dunkin' booth out in front of Lowe's Motor Speedway for an hour next Sunday afternoon. Fans can make donations to throw and put him in the Dunkin' booth, and all the proceeds will go to the Speedway Children's Charity.
Wow, that's admirable.
We've got a bunch of drivers that they've come up with gimmicks and schemes to try to get the fans to it, that's for a great cause,
yes.
Of course.
I liked Reed Sorensen's offer. And Reed Sorensen said, if you vote me in, whatever I win goes to charity. And there's Reed's car sporting McCafe, which is not a French restaurant unless you think McDonald's is French.
How about those guys
They
last
do
night,
have
Larry?
French fries.
I was just going to mention, I'm going to tell you, these guys, they definitely were the most pleasant surprise last night in the Sprint Pit Crew Challenge. They went all the way to the final round up against the 31 team of Richard Childress Racing. And these guys really didn't know until after Darlington that they were absolutely going to be eligible, because obviously they filled in the blanks to get to 24 teams by the owner points. So those boys did a well of a job last night.
And you know how they got there? They were not the fastest.
No mistakes.
They may not even been the bestest, but they ended up with no mistakes all the way through the competition.
Great. Now here's the 41. This is the car that Jeremy Mayfield has owned and driven throughout the season. You see JJ's name up there, and the ex-sprint car and midget driver and ex-cup driver, former cup driver I should say, from Phoenix is behind the wheel, and Jeremy's wife Shayna is listed as the owner. And I got emails this week, why didn't we spend more time talking Saturday night about the Jeremy situation and about his suspension for violation of NASCAR's substance abuse policy? And quite frankly, the reason we did not was that while we had NASCAR's statement, we did not have a corresponding statement from Mayfield, who later said that he believes a combination of prescription and non-prescription pain relievers may have created a false positive. Now, there's been a lot of debate about that this week, but the suspension is not appealable, and we'll just have to wait for further development.
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole thing about down there Saturday. I mean, Jeremy's a good friend of mine from Owensboro, you know, and all my friends were calling me and saying, what's going on? I said, I don't have a clue. They said it's 6 o'clock. Here we're getting ready to do a race. At 6 o'clock, they say, oh, by the way, Jeremy Mayfield has been suspended, and I don't know how we going to comment when we don't even know what's going on.
Now, there is a little more we can explain about this, and it's due to the timeline of things. According to Associated Press, Jeremy was informed of the positive test from a sample taken at Richmond. He was informed of that on Tuesday. NASCAR was informed on Wednesday. Jeremy had up until some point in time on Friday to ask for the B sample to be tested to make sure there wasn't an error with the original sample. And because of that timeline, he was allowed to practice and attempt to qualify on Friday at Darlington. The B sample also came back positive. NASCAR was informed of that early Saturday afternoon and made their announcement at 6 p.m. Saturday.
Look, I applaud the policy. I applaud that we're doing it. It needs to be done just for credibility. But one thing that I was a little bit confused about was that very issue. Here the man is practicing, qualifying, and it's an hour before the race. I mean, why can't we wait until Monday or Tuesday after the event? But to do it there that night, I just...
Because he didn't even qualify for
No, he didn't make the race. So I don't know. But I'm not faulting anything that was done. It just seemed like the timing was a little odd.
Now, Joe Nemechek last week gave up the seat in his number 87 to Scott Speed, who was the other driver who failed to qualify at Darlington. So Speed ran the race, but Joe got the owner points.
You know what is good about this weekend for teams like Joe Nemechek is, as I mentioned, 35 cars here. We won't have knockout qualifying. Everybody will get to race this 40-lap race tomorrow night. So what does this weekend, what's the purpose serve besides running a race and trying to win a race and transfer? Is this gives these guys that's going to have to qualify on time next Thursday for the Coca-Cola 600 a great opportunity to test things. I guarantee a lot of these go-or-go homers right now are practicing qualifying runs.
Yeah, and with no testing this year, you know, you have to find places to test. There are not many places like Charlotte around to go to. These practice sessions are critical for gathering information as far as what you want to do and you know, for the races.
Joe Nemechek jumps to the top of the board. He is the fastest car so far in Sprint Showdown practice. Here's the top of the board thus far, with Nemechek and Rudemann's laps set during a 2-lap qualifying run, and everyone else making a bit longer run that's in that top 5. And there's David.
Darrell, I'd say they better keep a close watch over this car tomorrow night. Oh, David Rudeman.
He's always really fast in qualifying and also very fast in short runs most everywhere we go.
And honestly, that race is just a 40-lap qualifying run.
That's all it is, and that's usually that's some of the best. David's best area right there is in that 30-40 lap range.
All right, Dick.
Well, David just spent a fair bit of time here in the garage, Mike. The crew was working on the car to try to prevent it from bouncing off the racetrack. So they moved some weight around, made a couple of other adjustments, and sent David back out again. I should point out that the roof of the car now has his name. It no longer reads the franchise, but I think he's still the franchise.
Well, it takes the pressure off.
They're giving that, they're passing it over to Marcos.
Oh, are they?
Because now Marcos has become the franchise.
Oh.
Yeah, David's had a bad week or two, and he lost his title. And Marcos has been pretty steamy.
Yeah, David actually fell out of the top 12 in points after Darlington for the first time in a long while.
Yes, sir. You know, to have that title, you've got to perform every week. So it can be a hit and miss thing, or you're going to lose your title.
Think your bounce the deal getting in there?
Now, David
it's better. It just won't turn. It turns down in good to the center good, but center and off is just terrible.
He did go to second quickest in this practice session right behind Joe Nemechek.
But you just think about this weekend compared to next weekend. I mean, this weekend you've got to forget strategy. You got to forget about, well, we got a long race and we got to hold back a little bit and I got all night, and you don't have. The hourglass was turned upside down yesterday, and the sand's about to run out about 9 o'clock tomorrow night, 10 o'clock tomorrow night. So these guys have got to get all that race strategy out of their mind, and they got to go out there and run qualifying laps every lap.
Like Max Pappas. Now, Max is entered in the Rebestos Rookie of the Year competition. When you hear us say there are 2 contenders for that title, it's the 2 drivers that are racing full-time schedules, but Max is a part of that program.
And that is based off, you don't have to run the whole schedule to be eligible for it. It's based on your 17 best finishes over the course of the year.
The rookies who are running the whole schedule are Scott Speed and Joey Logano. How about Logano? He went from, what, 3-4 weeks ago, is this kid going to make it, to how soon before this kid wins?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was just learning this race car.
Yeah.
You know, that the Nationwide car is the old Cup car, basically, is what it is. And he had that figured out. That's mainly what he has raced in all of his young career. I think getting into this car, he just had to kind of adjust to the car, and they had to adjust the car to him, and now it's starting to come together.
Well, maybe it's not a bad time to be a rookie, because there's a whole lot of experienced drivers that are still adjusting to this car.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's go to the garage.
And Darrell was talking about Marcos Ambrose as the new franchise. Well, perhaps he is, but they're going to have to do a bit of work on this hot rod of his in order to earn that title. He was one of the tire testers. 4 different drivers tested tires here in March. Ambrose was one of them, and he has told the crew that the behavior of the car today is very much unlike what he experienced during that tire test. The car is pushing, just sliding up the hill, but this guy has absolutely impressed everybody in big league stock car racing. He has learned these cars very quickly. He has performed well. He has kept himself out of trouble. He is a definite threat to win that race tomorrow night.
And you know something else, Doc? The boys were telling me that they went to a road course test up VIR, I think it was, and what an amazing job he does of getting around the road course. I said, yeah, well, that's basically, you know, he's a road racer. They said, oh, no, you're wrong. He is a racer.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question.
He's good on a road course. That's where he shines at. But he has really, really turned into a great overall just race car driver.
You know, Darrell, Dick mentioned as we watched Brian Vickers in the 83 car. Right now, Brian is 8th quickest, but Dick talked about Marcos doing the tire test out here. That was in March, and Jimmy Johnson, Casey Kane, Paul Menard, Marcos Ambrose. And I know, like myself, you read that Goodyear tire information every week, and this is something that caught my eye that to me is a little bit different. One, they did the same thing to the left side tire here. They gave it more grip, and this is the Las Vegas right side tire. But the one thing that caught my eye, these tires here don't have a lot of stagger. The difference between the left side and the right side tire, the more stagger you have, the better the car turns. This thing only has about 8 to 9/10 of an inch of stagger. Most places we go have about 1 1/4 inches.
Right. Now that's on the low side. You're right, and they do. Normally they'll do that for forward bite because the car doesn't have both rear tires the same size. The car doesn't want to turn through the middle of the corner, but it sure doesn't want to accelerate off the corner well. Plus, it probably probably helps it a little bit in and helps it a little bit off. They're just fighting out maybe a little tight in the center.
Yes.
Something they learned here, I guess.
Jamie Mack just became the 3rd driver in this session to tour the track in less than 30 seconds. Thursday Wrecked returns to speed. When motorists wreak havoc in the heart of the Windy City, only one company can bring Chicago back to life. Oh my gosh. This season get hooked all over again on Wrecked. Life in the crash lane. The new season starts Thursday only on Speed.
It's an interesting show.
Yes, it is. David Reagan, 14th in this session. He's run 11 laps. 30.2.
I gotta say this. I was watching that show one night, and they got a trailer hung up under a bridge, and they couldn't figure out how to get it out. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, why don't they just let the air out of the tires?
Right.
They didn't. They jacked it up and took the wheels off of it and did all this back to. They jacked it up, got the wheels off of it, and run a big wrecker up underneath of it and let it down and drug it out. And I'm pretty sure if it just let the air out of the tires.
Well,
but it wouldn't have been near a good of show.
It wouldn't have taken that long.
Yeah, you couldn't fill up a half hour with that, could you? Or charged as much, I'll bet.
That's right.
David Stremme is the 2nd fastest Dodge in this practice. He is 8th quickest.
He's run 11 laps so far. The most laps has been by his teammate Sam Hornish Jr. and Elliott Sadler. Those two cars, they've run 16 laps.
Oh, Sam Sam the Sham, he gets around here pretty good now.
There's Matt.
And Mike, you can coulda, woulda, shoulda the season so far for David Stremme, but the team will tell you just a little bit of luck, and their results definitely could be different. They put together some good runs in races, just not the complete race. They came here, and Larry Mack touched on it, that we've got the right side Las Vegas tires, so that's where his crew chief, Roy McCulley, started out, similar to the Vegas setup, and then they're going to migrate from there as far as what David's feeling in the race car. Currently, though, the car has been extremely tight. They just made a track bar and right rear spring change.
But I'm telling you, we are early in this practice and not probably surprised at the one car that I'm seeing up there. But Montoya, that 42, he's already starting to run the high side, especially down in 3 and 4.
But Larry, you know, you hear this and you hear it and you hear it, and I don't know how long you can hear it. I know as an owner, you'd probably get pretty frustrated. We were doing really good. We had a great car. We were going to get a good finish, but. And I don't know how long. A lot of these guys get great opportunities. I just don't know how patient an owner can be these days with that but all the time.
Well, it's like I say all the time, and I even tell my Brandon this. At the end of the day, all that matters is what the box score shows, what the finishing order shows.
You got it.
Dick Berggren.
In 2007, when what they used to call the Open was finished, the box score assured that Martin Truex was the winner. He went on that year to also win at Dover, his first point-paying Sprint Cup victory. He's going to have to do some work on this hot rod of his, however, if he is to win again tomorrow night. They've got it half right. The car goes into the corner very well, but it pushes in the middle and coming out. So they've just put a new anti-roll bar in the front of that thing, and that new anti-roll bar is big enough and fat enough, it's likely to take 2 men to try and lift it when they get ready to take it out. Truex crew about done with their work. He'll head out on the racetrack and see if the changes fix that push.
See, Larry, that's one of the things I think the guys have followed here in the past is loose in, really loose in. Well, that's where closing that stagger up will help the cars get in a little bit better. You're going to have to adjust your setup a good bit for that. But here's the other thing. That big old bar they're talking about, now they're gun drilling them. Those bars, a lot of them are hollow. And so in a hollow bar, believe it or not, is stronger than a solid bar. Hollow tubing is stronger than a solid piece of steel would be. And so they've got them so big that they had to go and gun drill them, get some weight out of them, or they did take 2 men to put them in.
And I would say they probably went bigger, because if you can keep that bigger anti-roll bar, keeps that left front corner pulled down, that will help that car turn and rotate through the middle of the corner.
Which is absolutely backwards of what we used to think. You know, a car wouldn't turn, take some bar out of it. Now a car won't turn, load that thing up, put some bar in it.
If I go back to last year to Casey Kane, that's where he just wore them out in that all-star race. He never got off the bottom of the racetrack.
That's the key to being good here. You watch old Mark Martin. When he hits the racetrack, that left front tire will be below that white line all the time.
Mike Wallace trying to make it in. He will be the 30th driver to practice in this session.
Not seen a lot of Mike this year. He was at Speed Weeks back at Daytona, attempted to race the 71 car into the 500, came close, the car that David Gilliland drives now, and I think that may have been the last time that we saw Mike around the racetrack.
Yeah, that's his one attempt for the season.
And his daughter Chrissy, you know, we thought she was going to have a pretty good future in the truck series, in the Camping World Series, but that just hadn't worked out either.
Just sponsorship
money, hard to find.
Todd Bodine among those trying to make the show in the Gunselman number 64 Toyota.
Boy, he bottomed out big time getting into one, and you could see how much it shot him up the racetrack. And if it's bottoming out right now, later on this afternoon, early evening, they go to qualify and she bails her off a little faster, she's going to bottom out more.
I know it hadn't been that long ago, but I used to talk to Ray about that. And I said, Ray, I never see that 24 car bottom out when it goes to qualify like everybody else does. He said, that's because I always raise it up 2 rounds before we get ready to qualify, because he says, I know how hard he's going to drive, and we're going to need some extra clearance.
And Todd brought her straight back to pit road after that little episode.
Yeah, because that doesn't get any better right there. I mean, you got to stop the car from doing that.
Joe Nemechek, David Rudiman, Casey Mears are still top of the heap. Today's the day. Joe Nemechek, David Rudiman, top of the board. A.J. Allmendinger has popped up into the top 5. Now this is Dexter Bean in the live wire energy Dodge, the car we saw as we went to break. Ryan Bergetti's his crew chief, and the 22-year-old from Wisconsin trying to make his first All-Star appearance.
And Dexter attempted a few Cup races earlier in the year and did not qualify. Kelly Byers, I think, actually tried to get the car. I think it may have been into the Daytona 500 or either the Auto Club Speedway race and did not qualify.
Right. Dexter attempted at Phoenix and Las Vegas. Matt?
And Mike, former Coca-Cola 600 winner Casey Mears back in the garage. And he was talking on the radio exactly what Larry Mack was talking about, running on the bottom, what Casey Kane did a year ago. Casey said when he got the left side tires down in the white line, he said it just broke the back end loose. Right before he came in, due to the raindrops out on the racetrack a few moments ago, he said he did try it up high really hard, made a good hard lap, and then it really pushed on exit. They're going in the right direction. Todd Barrier's going to make another change in the back of the car, but so far this team pretty pleased with what they're seeing. Third on the board.
This was a car that was a 29 car that Kevin Harvick actually raced at Las Vegas, Atlanta, and Texas earlier in the year. Bet if you scrape through that black paint there, you'll find some yellow paint.
Here's A.J. Allmendinger, whose Hunt Brothers Pizza Dodge is 5th fastest right now, and he is the fastest Dodge.
Now, did these guys all get their new engine package?
I don't know that.
I hadn't heard.
I don't know that.
Sure. I know they were saying that they hope to have everything changed over by the All-Star weekend.
But you know, I'm totally confused about this whole A.J. Allmendinger deal, because he's been absolutely one of the drivers on the full court press about vote A.J. in. He's got, now get this, he's got David Rudiman walking around wearing a vote for A.J. t-shirt. Now how do you figure that happened?
I just don't know what David's thinking. Yeah. I know what AJ's thinking. I'm just not sure what David's thinking. That's the problem.
I got an answer, but I can't support it with facts. So
you know what? I think I may have an answer. Who does David Rudiman drive for?
No. Maybe I don't know.
Well, I guess the moral of my story is your brother Michael does a lot of things that we don't understand.
Yeah, well, it does rub off on you, I can tell you that. He understands them, though.
a couple of cars braving the raindrops. They're both Roger Penske's, Sam Hornish and David Stremme.
Speaking of my brother real quickly, and when you see him, Larry, ask him how we ended up on the wrong hole yesterday playing golf. I can't tell you. You'll have to ask him.
Well, most of us start at 1 and end up on 18. not happening. Not working for you.
Now, while we're on the subject of Dodges and new engines, you just saw two of the Penske cars out there. We know they've been running the new Dodge engine, and all we have to do is propose a question up here. And Dick Berger, Matt Yoakum, they go at it immediately. Just got word from Matt Yoakum that none of the Richard Petty Motorsports cars that he can find has the new Dodge engine in it this weekend.
Oh, wow. I'm shocked because I was under the impression that that was the big plan. It might be like Junior Johnson told me one time. Complained about the motor and said, you know, we just need a better motor. And he said, boy, you can't handle the one you got.
Here comes a past winner of the Sprint Showdown, Brian Vickers. Dick.
And from my side of the garage, he doesn't have the new Dodge engine either, Mike. Of course, he's running a Toyota, so
right.
he shouldn't have the new Dodge engine. Right now, Vickers is 13 quick. He's run a total of 16 laps so far. And the crew has really been going at this car. The last time they were in the garage, they changed the wedge, they changed the left front camber on the car, and a couple of other things, trying to get it hooked up. He is a previous winner in 2005. He won what was then the Open, now the Showdown, and certainly expected to do well this weekend.
Hey, Doc, don't you imagine, though, that if there was a better engine out there that a driver would probably like to have it?
Yeah, I never met a driver in my life who thought he had enough engine, Darrell.
But Darrell, I agree with you, because the one thing that I've said about the All-Star weekend, yeah, it's about winning, whether it's in the Showdown or whether it's in the All-Star race. But it's also an opportunity to get outside of the box. Let's go back to last year. Joe Gibbs Racing came out here with engines that did not make it very far.
No.
Denny Hamlin had engine problems. Kyle Busch looked like he was going to win the race, had engine problems. Tony Stewart had problems in practice. But I will guarantee you, even though they didn't come back with those engines the next week, they learned from the experience, and I guarantee you they are thriving off of some of that information right now. Go back to 1997. Ray Evernham, Rex Stump, they showed out here with that chassis called T-Rex. Mission accomplished. They won the race. It was so experimental. NASCAR said, don't bring it back, but I guarantee you they learned from it.
You got that right. That's what this race has always been about. I mean, after we kind of got comfortable with the format, was good lap times for Bill, they're telling him. But that's what this race has turned into for so many of us. Bring something over here that's a little experimental. See if it'll last or not. It's something we might be able to use down the road.
And let me tell you about Bill Elliott's week.
Oh, boy, I heard.
Yeah, he spent Wednesday in Talladega. Brent Hayek brought that Mustang that Danny Thompson, Mickey Thompson's son, had run at Bonneville, reconfigured the car to run Talladega, try to break the speed record that Bill had set many years ago, and cut a tire in qualifying, and Bill ended up in the ambulance instead of.
Yeah, it rained, I guess, and they didn't get a lot of track time, and they finally got a couple laps in, and then he was going to go out and see how fast it'd go. You know, it's funny that happened. Not funny that it happened, but in my mind, I was thinking, well, I'm glad they have it at Bill's shop, because that's where they were working on it.
Right.
And Bill will know to put a big spindle and a big right front hub and wheel and tire on that thing, because that Talladega is going to eat that right front up. I don't care what kind of car it is. So I don't know what happened. He said I think he cut a tire or something, which is not good at 200 miles an hour.
No.
See Martin Truex Jr. right there, the one car coming off. He's made 4 different runs during his practice session. He's 17th quickest, and he's run 17 laps so far. And that is a cool looking paint scheme, though.
And he needs a 7 on there, so that'd be all. He could run a 7 on his car in this race.
Hey, Joey Logano's up to 8th quickest now.
Let's see how he looks in there, because, you know, we see him in here in the past. He's been really chopping on that wheel. He is a lot smoother in this car than he was 2 or 3 weeks ago. I mean, that just looks normal right there. And he looks comfortable. Remember how tense and kind of stepping up in his seat and almost like he was just hanging on for dear life. Now, I didn't like what I saw there. He had to turn back to the right a little bit, getting down into turn 1. It means the car's a little bit loose getting into 1, which is real common here. Let's see how he looks in turn 3 if he has to turn back to the right. No, he's kind of neutral. So that car's really quite free getting in. But, man, he looks a lot better in there than he has in the past.
He has not run a cup race here at Lowe's Motor Speedway. He did some testing last year, but this fall race was not one of the races that he ran. Go back a year ago, he was not old enough to compete here.
Yeah, I hope Zippy's watching that, because that back to the right just a little bit getting in, that gets worse. If you saw that, Zip, let me know. Give me the sign, Zip. Go ahead. There you go. Roger. Roger, I got it.
1040, Devin.
David Gilliland pops up into the top 5 in the number 71. That displaces A.J. Allmendinger. He's only made 5 laps, or 6 laps now. The 5th one was the quickest.
Well, that group's busy this weekend. A lot of racing going on.
Got it. What they say, 8 cars in a truck?
Yeah.
Is that the release?
Yeah.
All road racing cars except this one, and of course they're in the truck series.
And running good, too.
I was going to say, if this 71 car, I think if they could just get something painted on those quarter panels, the hood, the deck lid, just something. They just seem like they're just right there every week. Just need something to push them over the hump.
Tony Raines in the Taco Bell Chevy. You know, John Andretti at Indianapolis, where he had a real rough qualifying day this past weekend, and I guess the hope is that they're going to get a backup car together for John and give him a chance to qualify on bump day tomorrow.
Got two more shots at it.
That was a hard crash he had up there this past weekend.
But Mike, you were talking earlier about the 43 cars pit crew and the pit crew challenge last night. I watched something even more amazing on Wednesday night. The group that builds the engines for this 34 car is Pro Motor Engines. It's a company owned by Mark Smith. And two guys that build engines there, Dennis Borum and Daryl Hoffman, on Wednesday night in the Mall Engine Brothers Builders Showdown in Uptown Charlotte, they put a Chevrolet R07 engine together from basically the bare block on an engine stand and all the parts laid out. They can't use any of their own tools. Molly supplies the tools. They put that engine together, including running it for 1 continuous minute in 19 minutes and 27 seconds.
Wow.
The amazing thing, the group that they were actually going up against was Mike Cash and Jim Snowder from Roush Yates. Their time was 19 minutes and 44 seconds, 16 seconds difference in those two engine builds.
Excellent.
That was an amazing thing to watch.
That's great. Dick?
Well, Joe Nemechek is the fastest man in town so far, but he's got car problems, Mike. They tried to start it a few moments ago to put him out on the racetrack, and it simply would not turn over. They believe the problem is a starter motor. They have a new starter motor here in the garage area ready to go on it. But that sort of thing is exactly what you don't need when you're in a practice session for a race. You have to struggle a little bit with the tight air, loose there, and that sort of stuff. That's what you expect. But mechanical problems can do some things to your mind that you really wish they wouldn't do.
Well, and as I mentioned at the top of the show, not the all-star race, but the Showdown is an impound race. So this is something they need to get rectified before they push that car to the line to qualify.
Speaking of rectified, did Carl Long have an awesome moment up there?
He just about turned our yellow wall into black.
You know, I like these yellow walls. Now, I know last week y'all liked the red and white ones, but
yeah,
I'm liking these yellow ones.
Well, they're one night only. Well, 2 nights only, Friday, Saturday, and then they'll get painted for next weekend.
I think I just leave them yellow. I think that looks really cool. They show up well.
Now there's Carl Long, the Romeo Guest Construction, number 46 Dodge. Saw Carl run into the garage this morning at a fast clip with a shock in each hand, ready to go.
Well, the thing about Carl is he works on the car, he drives the car, he drives the hauler, he does body work back at fabricating and body work back in the shop. Carl never rests. No. He is a full-time employee that happens to get to drive the race car when they get to the racetrack.
And you'd just love to see good things happen for him.
He's a sweet guy, really is.
How about AJ, Matt?
Mike, one of those drivers that has an opportunity to be voted into the All-Star race, one of the top 10 guys. Now, AJ went out, ran 3 laps, wasn't pleased with the car. They came back in, made some changes, went back out, ran 6 more laps, and jumped up top 10 on the board. Then he sat down while still sitting in the car with a map of the racetrack, and he broke it down section by section on both ends of the racetrack in turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 for Sammy Johns, just how tight it was in different portions of the racetrack. So Sammy knew exactly how big of a swing he needed to make on the next change, because they also want to try to scuff a couple sets of tires during this practice session.
So I think that's so important. It's like when you watch a golfer pull that notebook out of his back pocket so he can see how far it is to the, where he is on the green, to get to the green, or what a green's like, or all those things. That's what breaking a racetrack down does for a crew chief. You can say, oh, I'm loose in. Well, loose in to where? Or from where are you loose in? So when you got the map there, you can break it down into individual little pieces, and man, it helps so much to fix the race car.
Scott Riggs looking for some speed here, 27th on the chart in Tommy Baldwin's Toyota.
Back in 2006, he pretty much he sat on pole and about led every single lap of the Showdown and transferred into the All-Star race.
Now this is a 35-car field as we have a look at Michael Waltrip. 3 cars have not practiced, and they are David Starr, Kirk Shelmerdine, and Norm Benning.
Michael's 10th quick, and I know after playing golf with him yesterday, he said, I want to be in that race so bad. I have won it. I deserve to be in it. I want to get in it. And then he said, I'm going to be up on the wheel Saturday to try to drive my way into it, because that's how I won it in 1996.
Yeah, and in 96, the format has changed so much. Michael actually did not win the Showdown race. I think he finished like fourth or fifth.
Finished fifth.
And that's how many they took and moved them into the All-Star race. And this is the 25th annual Sprint All-Star race, and only 3 drivers have transferred into the All-Star race and won it. Michael did it in 1996. Ryan Newman did it a few years ago, and then Casey Kane with the fan vote did it last year. But the interesting thing about Michael, if you remember that All-Star race win, that's the only race that Michael has ever won at a non-restrictor plate racetrack in Sprint Cup.
Finished second here. I don't know, driving a DEI car.
Yeah, not too many years ago.
4 or 5 years.
Strong second.
No change in the top 5. Martin Truex has jumped up to 7th. That's about the only big change in the top 20 in quite some time.
Yeah, I know. This is actually one of those nights when, if you know, I can watch Martin's car and say it's turkey walking.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Car may be driving good, but it'll still be turkey walking.
Tell me about this National Wild Turkey Federation. Do they preserve them or do they hunt them?
You're asking the wrong guy.
That's a Hammond question.
Kind of like Ducks Unlimited. You know, what exactly do they do?
All I know is I told Hammond I had some bullets for my shotgun, and he started laughing. I don't know why.
I think because they're called shells.
That must be it.
You know what shell shock is? From the truck comes having to spend a day with Hammond. That's almost correct. It's close. You know, it's close enough.
It's cruel and unusual. I know that.
Do you know he has a store? He's competing up in the race park in Mooresville. Jeff Hammond's store. Almost drove off the road driving by.
Well, I asked him, where is it? He said, you can't miss it. My name's on the front of the building.
Oh, yes. Up there in Talbot Point, north
You know,
of,
we were in Alabama, and it was up on the Zaxby sign, too.
That's right.
So I don't know about all that.
I think the slogan, it's all you need.
Yeah. I'd like to get one of those cowboy outfits he had on at Texas.
See Robbie Gordon right now.
You know who
7 cars 22nd quickest.
Did you ever know who Howdy Doody was?
Of course.
That's
Buffalo Bob Smith.
That's right. Well, that's what Hammond looked like when he was all decked out. He looked like Howdy Doody.
Well, if you'll get him straightened out, maybe the Cowboy Federation will quit emailing you and I.
I'm telling you, it's scary, isn't it?
What was their difficulty?
It was an embarrassment to the cowboy profession.
So that's 2 or 3.
Yep. And they want to know why I was sitting by him. I said, because I get paid to sit by him.
They tell you to.
Okay, so the National Wild Turkey Federation is dedicated to the, once again, there was a word there, the conservation of the wild turkey and the preservation of the hunting tradition. So I guess that means hunting them instead of preserving them. That's their mission statement from their website.
I just don't see where it's fair to hunt something that can't shoot back, you know? It just doesn't seem fair to me.
Tiny bit better.
Well, I know the guy you used to drive for, a man named Junior Johnson. I'm just not sure about that sport. Let's see. You blind him with headlights, and if he can dodge the bullet, come out of the tree, and whip the pack of dogs, he can go on about his merry way.
Poor Bambi.
That's a lot more fun than going fishing with him, I can tell you that.
Bergie.
Is there any meaning to the fact that I have just followed a discussion of wild turkeys? Is there anything to that? I certainly hope not. I'm in Max Pappas' garage, and I have learned the value of experience here at Lowe's Motor Speedway. Pappas has precious few laps at this place, and they are struggling with the chassis of the car, and the driver's trying to figure out where he ought to be on the brakes, what line he ought to take. Spotter's trying to help him out with all of that. It is a massive undertaking to come here with this new car and try to get it dialed in with a driver who does not have a lot of experience in the past at Lowe's Motor Speedway.
Well, for this team then, I mean, let's be honest with this. Sure, Max would love to run in the Sprint All-Star race and make the show. But with the absence of testing this year, Doesn't this day and tomorrow become a great test session for next week for teams like this?
It's the only time they will be at a racetrack this year on qualifying day where they don't have to worry about where they qualify or if they qualify.
The other beautiful thing about it is, you know, if you go, just say you rented Charlotte Motors or Lowe's Motor Speedway and wanted to come here and test. Well, the track doesn't have any rubber on it. And, well, do we have the right tires? And, well, we're running pretty good, but we don't really know how we're comparing to the rest of the field. This is like testing with everybody at the track. You got the right tires, rubber on the track conditions. You got people to compare to. This is an ideal time to lay it down and see what you got.
Speaking of laying down, Montoya in the 42, he's laying down his own groove higher and higher and higher on the racetrack at both ends.
He's about a 10th off his fastest lap of the day, which has him 19th after 24 laps.
I just don't see that. You know, if you're going to run the 40 laps and you're going to run up there high like that, there are going to be a lot of guys underneath of you. I can tell you that.
Because when you're on fresh tires, you're going to want to run the bottom.
You're not going to be up there. I'd be working my tail off to get that thing to hook the bottom. I'll save that run there for next week when I got 600 miles to mess around. We're not talking about a race here. We're talking about a sprint. It's like running the half mile or the mile and compared to a 100-yard dash.
Yeah, the race is 2 20-lap segments.
Yeah. Go figure.
Which was about the average green flag run between cautions at Darlington last week.
The last thing I want to hear tomorrow night is it'll come to you.
Yeah.
It'll be a little bit too late.
And so we're loading it into the hauler.
That's right.
Matt.
Mike Casey Mears is logging his 23rd lap in his practice, and DW has talked so many times about how while a crew chief is making adjustments to the race car, the driver can also help by changing his approach, changing his lines when he's on the gas, off the gas, and it's exactly what Casey Mears has been trying to do. He said to his team, Todd Berrier, his crew chief, I keep going into turn 3 because turn 3 and 4 is where he's been trying to work on the car the most. He's going in there slower, getting out of the gas earlier. And he says all it does when he's trying to get to the bottom is just making the car tighter and tighter. So they're still fighting that push here in the 07.
And these words keep ringing in my ears because they're so true. What did Cale say last week? What did David Pearson say last week? Don't tell me about how far you're driving into the corner. Tell me how quick you're getting back in the gas. Because if you're not back in the gas before you get to the middle of the corner, that's what you need to be working on.
Just saw Todd Berrier there, Casey Mears' crew chief. This will be kind of a new deal for him because it's been a long time since he wasn't already qualified for the All-Star race. In fact, won it a couple of years ago with Kevin Harvick in the 29 car.
There's that flipping bags car. That's Derek Cope. That's kind of a cool thing. It's, you know, it's a bag that becomes your seat cushion. So you carry your beverages in, and then you have something to sit on.
Perfect for the racetrack.
Yeah, why not?
I carry my beverages in. I'm looking for something to lay on.
Paging Jimbo. Casey Mears is now quickest. Catchy name. The Catch the Race, Catch the Cash All-Star Sweepstakes going on now at speedtv.com. And play for your chance to win cold hard cash. You could win $250 today. Catch the Race, Catch the Cash All-Star Sweepstakes, speedtv.com, and play now.
Guys, I'll pose this question to you. Would you not say this is about one of the funnest racetracks we go to? Would you not say that the racing on this mile and a half with a dog leg track is better than most any place we go?
I think the racing and the show. You know, they have always at this racetrack, they're celebrating 50 years of what is now Lowe's Motor Speedway. And it's always a big show. You come in here, you know you're at a big event. Tomorrow afternoon, Montgomery Gentry's going to play a big concert. We're going to have a big all-star race, big fireworks on the track, in the sky. I mean, it's always a big event. And yes, racing's pretty good too.
Well, in the layout here, I don't know, it's just a little wee bit different. When you come off of turn 4, you got a little short spurt there, a little straightaway before you get into the kind of the dog leg right here in the front straightaway. Then you got another little short straightaway spurt, down into turn one. It's just laid out just a teeny bit different than most of the other mile and a half with the tri-oval.
Well, this was the first that had this configuration, you know, and then of course they reconfigured it at Atlanta Motor Speedway and tried to duplicate it, but it's different. Then they built Texas Motor Speedway, tried to duplicate it, but it's different. I think this was just the signature Speedway with this configuration.
With this design, yeah. I just think about how much the racing here is just always so good, and certainly, I don't know if this is the world's greatest mile and a half, but it's pretty darn good.
They call it a quad oval, 4 corners plus 2 dogleg turns in the front straightaway. As Reed Sorensen finishes off his run, he is 22nd.
I don't know if we did mention, Mike, Casey Mears has now jumped to the top of the practice sheet at a 29.70, and Elliott Sadler, he's up there in 3rd right now, right behind Joe Nemechek. Now, actually, Elliott Sadler sat on the pole for this race 1 year ago at a 29.18. That could be a stretch, but you know, cools down a little bit. They get in qualifying trim, but I think we got to remember it is an impound procedure, which it was a year ago as well.
Right, but you know what? I like the conditions. I mean, we haven't had any bright sunshine. Yeah, the ambient temperature's up there pretty good, but we don't have that beaming sunshine like we normally have here, when you just don't even, you waste your time going out and running when it's bright and sunny here in the afternoon. So I think we're getting a good break here with conditions.
Now, some folks may be wondering, how do we get 35 cars for this race, plus all the cars that are in the Sprint All-Star race, and yet we kind of struggle to fill the field elsewhere? Well, most all these cars are based within 45 minutes of Lowe's Motor Speedway. Charlotte is the hub of the sport, has been for many, many years. It's where a lot of the parts come out of. A lot of the good fabrication talent and car setup talent is from this area or lives in this area. So there's a great labor pool for working on these stock cars, and the businesses that support them all seem to be located in Concord or in Mooresville or in the general area.
Well, for these 35 cars attempting this race tonight, this would absolutely, for the ones located here, which, as you said, Mike, most of them are, this would absolutely be the cheapest expense of a race weekend you could have. No travel expenses. You're not going to have a huge tire bill like you even would for next week for the Coca-Cola 600. So this would be the cheapest that you could race all year. And the bottom line, when you roll through the gate this morning, I'm going to race tomorrow night.
Right. I think that's the big thing. You come over here, even if you don't, you know, if this was the only race you're going to run all year long and you're on a limited budget, this would be one you would choose.
Sam Hornish Jr., they have run some laps with this 77 car. He's run a total of 45 laps.
Larry, not only do you know that you're guaranteed in the race as you see the most laps run, you're also guaranteed to make money if you don't tear anything up. The Showdown, the purse is listed through 33rd, so I'm not sure what happens for the extra 2 positions, but 33rd pays $27,000.
That's pretty darn good money.
For 40 laps work. That'll be okay.
That's nothing wrong with that.
You know what that'll do for you? That'll give you enough money to think, I might ought to think about going to Dover.
That's right.
Now, what I'm seeing going on in the garage area now, we've got about 11 minutes. I see a lot of tire changing. I see a lot of fuel being put in. So I think what we're fixing to see is Martin Truex Jr. just goes to the top of the practice chart as a little practice qualifying run here, which was obviously be with your race setup.
One thing I was surprised to hear, and I heard this from the truck practice, everybody's scuffing their tires. Seems like that scuffed tires are a little bit better than when you first go out on a set of stickers. Apparently, a set of stickers a little uncomfortable getting up to speed. Okay. You got to knock the new off of them, put a lap or 2 on them.
You know, this Showdown race, no, it's not the top stars of NASCAR. We'll see those a little later on. But this race, 40 laps, the purse is $1 million. And I love the breakdown. It only pays $51,000 to win. Plus, you transfer on to the big show, which pays even more. But $27,000 for last place.
They've kind of spread it throughout the field.
Very, very nice.
Yes.
Breakdown. This is a very profitable weekend for these teams. Not only in the race, the 40 laps here, but when you get into that big event, you're talking about some serious change right there.
Dave Blaney right now is 15th quickest. we actually have 7 cars that's running the 29-second bracket. David Gilliland is the last of those 7 at a 29.96.
Yeah, Darrell, if you win the showdown and transfer in and just finish last in the All-Star race, you've had a $125,000 day.
That may make you go, I might can go to Pocono in Michigan.
I got that old car sitting over in the shop.
Bertie. Dick.
Quite a thrash going on in Juan Pablo Montoya's area, Mike. Brian Petty, the crew chief, has been on his back under the nose of the car, taping off the nose. They're changing shocks front and back in this. Looks like they're going to put a different set of tires on. He is getting ready for a mock qualifying run. Has not been fast in this practice session. Has not been happy with the car.
Thanks, Dick. Kurt Shelmerdine, former championship winning crew chief, and then raced in ARCA, got a top 20 in the Daytona 500, has made limited Cup Series starts the last couple of years, still chasing the dream, based out of Winston-Salem.
But see, there's a perfect example of what we're talking about. Kurt doesn't get to run that many races, but this is one where he can come over here, he can bring his car, he knows he's going to get to be in the race and run some laps. He might, learn something, or he might get lucky.
And you talked about championship crew chief. He won the All-Star race once or twice with Dale Earnhardt Sr. as his crew chief.
Pat?
Mike, it's really been impressive listening to Joey Logano during this practice session. Before he went out and made the last run, he asked a lot of questions to crew chief Greg Zapinelli just about the trends of racing here at the Lowe's Motor Speedway. What lap on qualifying is faster, the first lap or the second, just different things as far as to get up to speed, the trends that you see throughout practice, so that way he doesn't get himself mentally going down the wrong road. Now, they went out and made a qualifying race, so the car was just way too loose, a pushy loose. They're going to top it off with some Sunoco race fuel, put some Goodyear sticker tires on it, let it cool back down, and go out and take one more run at it here, as we got about 7 minutes left in this practice session.
Yeah, he's run 38 laps. His fast lap was 30.06, and I believe Kirk Shelmerdine just went up against the wall down in turn 3 and 4 in his 27 car. You can see all the damage on the right front. Caution will wave.
Yeah, there's some pieces out there. Norm Benning also made it out on the track for one lap, his first lap of the day. Here's Kirk.
He just gets in there and it will not turn, and going up the hill, and I mean, it almost looked like I had a right front tire down. It just went
Never
up the
even
hill.
wanted to attempt to turn.
No, you could see it was kind of digging, but it wouldn't turn. Yeah, I believe to see that smoke come out of it. I think it might have cut a right front tire down.
Well, that'll put us under the red and black flag for the moment.
No, she's up.
Yikes.
He hardly hadn't even got up to speed yet. Hadn't even really made a lap.
I want to be part of the All-Star race, and I was hoping, that we would get voted in once we didn't make it by racing our way in, and the fans voted us in. So yeah, I was relieved.
Casey Kane, through the fan vote, started dead last. He has now cracked the top 10. He's up in the 9th spot with this 9 car.
I don't want tires. We don't need them. Let's just come to a stop, get a little bit of gas, and go out, and it paid off.
Almost leaning on each other. Hamlin, Johnson, and now Kane and Biffle come in. Wheel to wheel again for the lead. Hamlin slides up. Johnson as well breaks loose. They hang on to their race cars, but Hamlin will hang on to the lead.
Getting serious right now as they hit the line.
I didn't think we were going to win till we actually won the race. So it was a surprise to me this last weekend to have such a good Dodge Charger.
And here comes Casey Kane, the fan favorite, wins the Sprint All-Star race.
Oh, by the way, young man, this bud's for you.
This 25th Anniversary All-Star Memory Minute was brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation. Click it or ticket.
Casey Kane with a big All-Star win. What kind of surprises does tonight have in store for us? Here's how it will all shake out after the Sprint Showdown. 2 20-lap runs in the Sprint Showdown. 60 miles, first and second place advance, and the leading fan vote getter. As we mentioned, a little over 51 grand to the winner, who will also pick up at least 75,000 in the All-Star race.
Now we need to clear up one thing. When you looked at that format, 2 20-lap segments, they're just going to throw a caution at lap 20. And it's just like a caution coming out with 20 laps to go. You can pit, you can stay out. But if you pit, that means you'll lose whatever spots you have. And the good thing about it, and I love this on All-Star Weekend, double file restarts.
I like it on every weekend, but I reckon we'll never do it. But because I like it.
But it is a nice little twist to the All-Star race.
You know, we were talking about the teams experiment with things. I think NASCAR does too. They try to take a look at different situations that we might go to someday.
Well, some of their touring series run double file restarts until the latter part of the race when they go single file.
There's an old RCR employee there, Larry.
Will Lynn, yeah, right there between Danny Lawrence and Kevin Hart. Been there about as long as anybody's been at Richard Childress Racing.
And didn't I see his son is he on the pit crew?
He's one of the crew members on one of the teams, yes.
Aim here. All right, we're going to extend this practice session about 5 minutes.
Well, there's about 34 cars on pit road that are glad of that.
All right. And we'll be right back to cover it for you. Jack Roush having a look at things. He has Jamie McMurray 6th in this practice, the fastest Ford. And new sheriff in town, not Martin Truex, who was fastest when we went to caution, but A.J. Allmendinger has just laid down the fastest lap of this session.
We're definitely seeing some practice qualifying runs roll off here in these closing minutes. Martin Truex Jr. goes to 2nd quickest.
Number of cars. I mean, you can tell they're on qualifying runs. They go by, and as soon as they cross the line, they cut them clean so they don't get the engine too hot.
We now have 9 drivers who have lapped the track in under 30 seconds.
Now, I know AJ's been on this full court press on the fan vote, but he did race his way in last year by winning the Showdown race.
Right. Casey Mears now 3rd. And that last run by Mears was his fastest, 29.68. Sadler is 4th, or 5th rather. McMurray, Rudeman, Vickers, Gilliland are the drivers under 30 seconds.
Paul Menard was trying desperately, I think, to make a practice qualifying run, but I don't think it worked out very good with Dexter Bean in the 51 car right out there in front of him.
Yeah, he kind of ran into a roadblock. Paul was coming through 3 and 4 really, really hard, and Dexter was looking for the line.
So Allmendinger has moved the mark to 29.63, so we're getting down to about a half a second from what the pole was a year ago.
I think when the temperature cools down a little bit, it'll be right there in the low 29s.
Dexter Bean needs to find some speed. 32.31, or excuse me, was his last lap. 31.48 was his best lap. And here's Reed Sorensen trying to join his teammate Allmendinger at the top of the board.
Let's see if he didn't get a little close to the 4th turn wall here, boys. He's out there. He's out there.
He did touch it a little bit with that right rear. You can see the black mark appear.
He just got a little McStripe.
Yeah, just a kiss. A McKiss.
On his McCafe. Number 43.
We're done, Mike. Pit road. Is that your 2 loose right there? Cars all over the place.
He's McDone.
The big boys are getting ready to hit the racetrack. Brad Keselowski gets in the All-Star race by virtue of winning a couple of weeks ago at Talladega. Be driving for James Finch in the 09 car that he won that race at Talladega.
And we'll have that practice session for you coming up right around the top of the hour.
Now, he's the only driver right now that's already in the All-Star race that will be making his first start in the All-Star race.
Robbie Gordon had been waiting on pit road for quite a while to make a mock qualifying run. Right now he is 13th at a 30.05.
Well, this definitely probably is going to be about his last lap, because I see the flagman. He's not waved them yet, but he has the black and the red in hand.
And J.J. Yaley in the 41 is 25th fastest. the smallsponsor.com Toyota.
I talked to Tony Furr, the crew chief for this team, and he said, you know, we were pretty much lost when we left Darlington. We didn't know what we were going to be able to do, but he said we wanted to find someone that we could get their full focus and attention. We didn't want someone that races in the truck series. They'll be here for 2 weeks and then they got to be over here. And J.J. Yaley was obviously completely available.
And what they were impressed was they said he lived near the shop. He came to them, came knocking on the door. What can I do to help? Just seemed to work out right.
Yeah, he's been trying very hard to get back and find something to drive, so this may work out really well for everybody.
We just showed the 43 garage, and I think I saw a McHammer being broke out.
To fix the McFender.
Well, why doesn't Mac Reynolds go down there and help him?
Because Mac Reynolds didn't hit the wall. I'd give it to Mac Sorensen.
We're having way too much McFun with this. All right, we're going to go to the McSpeed stage in just a minute. Okay, less than a minute.
Wouldn't mind having a Big Mac about now.
A.J. Allmendinger has won practice for the Sprint Showdown over Martin Truex, Casey Mears, Joe Nemechek, and here's McSteve Burns.
Well, Mick, thank you, Mike Joy. Glad you're with us here as we continue our all-star coverage from the Lowe Motor Speedway, just north of Charlotte, North Carolina, celebrating the 25th running of the All-Star race, which all started back here in 1985 and has been run every year with the exception of 1 year here at Lowe Motor Speedway in front of the entire sport, seemingly these days located in this area. Let's take a look at the menu. So much more coming your way here on Speed. You just saw Showdown practice, the All-Star practice coming up next, followed by NASCAR Live. The Camping World Truck Series teams will qualify at 3:30. Sprint Cup qualifying follows at 5 p.m. Jeff Gordon will be the first driver out to qualify. Truck coverage beginning at 7:30 for the race, and trackside, hey, be with us for a nightcap. Brad Keselowski and Robbie Gordon joining us for that. Take a look at some of the highlights, see who was quick in Showdown practice. Casey Mears, third fastest for Richard Childress Racing in the 07 car. Second quick, Martin Truex Jr., he has 3 all-star starts. His best finish, a 10th. He was second fastest in the just concluded practice. Quickest, A.J. Allmendinger, he won the Showdown race, raced his way in 1 year ago. Richard Petty Motorsports, Allmendinger is fastest in that practice. Big names up there in the top 10. Elliott Sadler in the top 5. Then is McMurray, David Rudiman for Michael Waltrip Racing. Brian Vickers, David Gilliland, and David Stremme in the top 10. Stay with us here on Speed as our continuing coverage of All-Star Weekend continues. Ryan Newman pulling those belts tight.